Oh, hello. Didn't know you were here. Anyway, well, I guess this might be the bloody end for UK month, but I might return next August. But for now, I'm gonna review for you something that some of you Americans probably have seen it on PBS. Unless some of you have the BBC America, British Broadcasting Channel in America. And the TV show I'm going to review for you today is, of course, Are You Being Served? I mean, seriously, are you being served? Anyway, Are You Being Served is one of the most popular British comedies ever been made in history. And allow me to explain to you the characters in the show. It all started with this one old man who goes by the name of young Mr. Grace. And this here is young Mr. Grace. Old Mr. Grace don't get around much. And one thing about Mr. Grace, he always has a nurse by his side, and also a very attractive and sexy, secretary with him. Well, being a rich man, he can afford it. And he is the main chairman of a clothing store who goes by the name of Grace Brothers. And this one was beginning during the time when women are now sharing the store, because there are female women who wanted to have some clothes and wants to be served. And allow me to introduce to you the characters of the show. You have the second in command, who goes by the name of Mr. Rumbo here. Old Jug-Ears himself. Of course, the problem with him is that every time when somebody give him an idiom or a slang, he takes it literal. Like when somebody tells him, "This person has been up my nose," he thinks, "Oh really? Which finger?" "What? Which finger is up your nose?" And of course, Rumbo only commands the floor walker, a sort of a former military man, who is a real womanizer. His name, Captain Stephen Peacock. That's right, he is quite the gentleman and quite the ladies' man. He also flirts with any women, especially if they're Rumbo's secretaries or any women who works in the department. And also you get the oldest member of the group, Mr. Granger. "Yes, are you being served, sir? Are you being served, madam?" And he's been working in the department as long as anyone should ever imagine. And of course, his second in command, Granger's second in command, is the funny gay one, the most famous one in the group, Wilberforce Humphrey. "I'm free." That's his catchphrase. Every time when somebody says, "Mr. Humphreys, are you free?" "I'm free." And the newest member is, of course, Lucas. Mr. Lucas here, who always keep flirting around with Miss Brom, the youngest member of the worker on the ladies' department. And Miss Brom works with the oldest member, Mrs. Slocum. And that is the members of all you being served in the clothing department. And of course, some people have that one character, the janitor, who always looks down on the high class. He also called Mrs. Slocum a half-class cow. Half-class cow? And his name is Mr. Mash. And one thing most people remember from Mr. Mash is that every time he shows up, he does this. Until the actor who plays Mr. Mash has been replaced for a little bit of a kinder janitor, although he does like to pick on the high-class types, Mr. Harmon. What is I'm Mr. Harmon here. Hello, Captain Peacock. Don't mind if I come up in my raggedy clothes, showing you exactly what I'm going to show you now. Oh, and one thing you have to remember about Mrs. Slocum. One funny thing you should know about Mrs. Slocum, she always likes to get drunk. When it comes to liquor, she cannot resist the bottle. And every time when she talks about her cat, she calls her cat her... Well, I can't say it, but, it's that P word represents a woman's private parts. It rhymes with wussy. So every time she talks about her cat... Ah, here's a way to say it. Mr. Humphreys, leave my wussy alone! Now, if you go through the letterbox, you can see my wussy, and she's always been so excited every time somebody pops up. Can you wrap this up? My wussy's getting very irritated if I'm not there with his din-din. That's Mrs. Slocum for you. If you ask me, most of the funny ones in the show is, of course, Mr. Humphreys and Mrs. Slocum. And the show got really popular enough that they decided to make a movie, in which I have on DVD. Sadly, I don't have the shows on DVD, I just have the movie. Are You Being Served? The movie. In this one, all the members from Grace Brothers, now this one was made in 1977, this movie, so the show was made in 1976, or around the time. Anyway, this one is about, well, all the members of of Grace Brothers, they go into a fancy hotel in Spain. And the owner of the hotel, is played by the same actor who plays the Spanish waiter in the show Mighty Python. You know, the one when Basil Fawlty always says, Manuel! And he's like, ¿Qué? ¿Qué? But of course he speaks perfect English in this one. In this movie. And of course there's a revolutionarius who keeps on causing trouble, and also finds Mrs. Slocum very attractive. Until, sadly, the actor who plays Mr. Granger here, due to his health issues, they had to have him leave the show, but they had him replaced with another actor who goes by the name of Mr. Tibbs. Now, Mr. Tibbs, he's a little bit like Granger, although his appearance makes me think of the Monopoly guy.
Do not pass go, do not collect $100.
Sorry, I cannot resist. Can't help myself. I always enjoy a game of Monopoly. I don't know why Multi-Voice Reviewer prefers Cluedo, or how he says it in America, Clue. Until sadly the actor who played Mr. Tibbs, he was having some issues as well. So they find a new member to join the group. And it was the most memorable one of all, Mr. Goldberg. And one thing about Mr. Goldberg, he knows about Captain Peacock. And he said that he served with him in the army. And also one thing he remembered him as Corporal Peacock, not Captain. So, Peacock wasn't exactly a captain after all. He just lied of what position he was in. But Goldberg was the most remembered character in the show. Until sadly he has to leave. And gets replaced by this guy. He's only the expert on shoes, but not much of a member. I mean, he's not as remembered as the others, sadly. Until sadly the actor who plays Mr. Lucas here, he decided to leave the show. He decided to leave the show because better opportunity was going on. So he decided to leave the show and gets replaced by a well-known crooner who goes by the name of Spooner. He kind of talks like this.
Oh, hello. What is the last word, Miss Slocum? How about bug off, your ugly git? How about the old two-finger salute?
I had to say, Spooner is a lot... I gotta say, Spooner's funny, but sometimes he gets to be very, very rude when he makes remarks to Slocum. At least he's flirting around with Miss Brom, one of the members here. Now, of course, Captain Peacock is no longer hitting on Miss Brom now, since there's a new female character in the show. The most lovely and attractive Miss Belfridge. Every time I see her, she makes me think of a British Marilyn Monroe. And her name is Sydney David. That's her real name. Believe it or not, after the show ended, do you know what she's been doing after the show ended? She quit acting and became a kindergarten teacher. On every show I've seen her wearing such very hot and attractive bikinis and such. It's kind of hard all of her students couldn't shake off the idea that she was quite a woman as their teacher on Are You Being Served? After seeing her on Are You Being Served? Until sadly in the original series, young Mr. Grace is no longer running the store, so therefore he brought back old Mr. Grace, right here, with a new secretary involved. Until sadly in the 80s, that's when the show finally ended. Because it was the end of Are You Being Served in the 80s. Spooner finally became a big sensation as a crooner, and finally did his stage show, but sadly, they got the wrong recording tape. So now he's ruined. And that was the end of Are You Being Served? Even though it was the end, but it's not gone yet. See, some of the people in Australia decided to do their version of Are You Being Served? So, what they did, they brought Mr. Humphreys here to go all the way to Australia. Hang on a sec. Oh. John Inman, that's his name. John Inman, who plays, Mr. Humphreys. They decided to do an Australian version of Are You Being Served with John Inman as Mrs. Humphreys. What they did is they transfer him out of Grace Brothers and into Booth's Brothers. An Australian version of Grace Brothers. And this here is just one picture I found of the Australian version of Are You Being Served. They changed the story a bit, but it's the same premise. Bloody dears. And I know what you're thinking. Did they ever make an American version of, Are You Being Served? Well, surprisingly they did. But sadly, it was a pilot, so it didn't catch on. And it was Beans of Boston. Takes place in Boston, and the chairman is named Mr. Bean. B-E-A-N-E. Not to be confused with Mr. Bean from the ones you know from my last review. Of course, they changed the story a lot, like the American version of Rumbo. He's the son of Mr. Bean, and also has sort of a relationship with Miss Braun. Sadly, some of the cast who played the characters, they didn't go too well. They should have had better cast. Although the guy who played Captain Peacock in this pilot, he did a pretty good job being Captain Peacock, and it was played by the same actor who played Higgins on Magnum P.I. But it was up to me, I should make it a little bit better. Or multi-voice reviewer. And then suddenly they decided to bring back the old team of Are You Being Served? And they brought them back alright, but they made a new show. Now in America they call it Are You Being Served Again, but in England it's called Grace and Favors. As you can see, Captain Peacock, Mr. Humphreys, Miss Braun, Mrs. Slocum, and Rumble have finally returned. And they've been in... And after Mr. Grace passed away, they had to live in their big country house and trying to turn it into a bed and breakfast. Along with Mr. Grace's widow, Mr. Grace's widow, Lovelock, Miss Lovelock, that Captain Peacock seems to be attracted to. And of course, there's a gardener and his daughter, Mr. Moulturd and Mavis Moulturd. Now, here's my impression of Mr. Moulturd.
I did, Mr. Rumbo. You tell me to open up the hen house, so I opened up the hen house and they all buggered off. Now you better behave yourself or I give you the straps.
Although the girl Mavis Moulturd, she starts sharing a bed with Mr. Humphreys, and now Mr. Humphreys is getting a little confused about his... I mean, it makes you think... I mean, even though he's supposed to be gay, isn't he? Or is he? Who knows? He might be bi, for all I know. Anyway, Grace and Favor only lasted for 2 seasons, and that was it for Grace and Favors and Are You Being Served? And that was the end of Are You Being Served? But not for bloody long. Because sooner or later they decided to make a brand new remake series of Are You Being Served in England. And this here's a picture of the recasts of all the members of Are You Being Served right here. Now, how long that show's gonna last, I don't bloody know. And that is the end of Are You Being Served? Oh, bloody heck. And I guess this must be the end of the UK month. although Sherlock Holmes hog all the credits of his reviews. I tried to do this review yesterday, but sadly it was the bloody weather. It was starting to rain all of a sudden. Well, at least I was glad to be here. So, I am British Snob, friends call me Snobby, telling to you all, see you next August, for the next UK month. So, I don't know about you, but I'm dying for a cup of tea. That's the end for me, there. So, if you like this Are You Being Served review, please leave a comment down below, hit like, subscribe, and, see ya, Yankees.